Hello everybody, and today I am reviewing the Kessler Pocket Dolly version 2. Hello again everyone, so this is the Kessler Pocket Dolly version 2. It is a very awesome piece of gear in my opinion. When it comes to sliders, there are a lot of brands of sliders in the market. However, when you say Kessler, it's almost like the BMW of sliders. So Kessler makes a line of really great equipment. They make great motion control equipment, from video heads to sliders to jibs to digital motion control systems. So this is sort of their entry-level slider, the Kessler Pocket Dolly. So the Kessler Pocket Dolly, I have the standard version here, which is 1 meter in length. They have a mini and traveler version, which are basically smaller, shorter variants of this. So this is the Pocket Dolly version 2. So there's another variant of this called the Pocket Dolly Basic, V2 Basic, which is basically the same as this one, except it doesn't have these drive belts and the crank handle over here. So basically it doesn't have a drive system and the crank handle. So in my opinion, the Pocket Dolly Basic is just a little bit cheaper than the Pocket Dolly, but you are actually missing out a lot on the Pocket Dolly Basic. Why? Because on this one here, you get the drive system, which makes this slider fully compatible with Kessler's line of motion control equipment, including their Cine drive system, so you can pop a motion control motor on here, and then it can drive the entire slider using the motor. With the Pocket Dolly Basic, you cannot do that because it doesn't have a drive system and it has a crank handle, so you can crank it using your hand. With the basic version, again, without this, you cannot crank it, you can only push it by hand. And even if you buy an extra crank handle for the Pocket Dolly Basic, it simply wouldn't work again, it doesn't have a drive system. Now this crank handle here comes with the Pocket Dolly V2. It is removable. I'm not going to remove it right now because it is extremely hard to remove, so you don't really have to worry about losing it. They do sell a replacement one at 70 US bucks, which is very expensive for a tiny crank handle like this. However, the crank handle does have a lot of mass to it. It's made of solid metal. It is rather firm and very heavy, which means it acts also as a sort of a counterweight to the entire slider. So when you move the sliding cart, you actually have to move the momentum, the weight of this crank handle as well, which gives the entire sliding motion a very nice dampened sort of feel to it. It doesn't feel loose. So if I remove this crank handle right here, the entire sliding motion would feel very loose and very sort of unstable. It just feels more dampened with this right here because of the inertia of this. So when you move it, the entire motion just feels really smooth and continuous. So there we have this. Now let me talk about mounting this slider. So right now I have it mounted on a Velbond carbon fiber tripod in the middle here and a Manfrotto monopod right here. Now there are a ton of ways to mount this. However, for me, I just find the most stable way to mount it is to have at least a tripod and a monopod, so you have 2 points of contact. It is mountable on a single tripod. However, if I remove this monopod right here, let me just put this here, the entire slider would become very wobbly because, well, first of all, I'm mounting this on a Velbond carbon fiber tripod with just a Manfrotto 755 quick release plate. I've tried it with ball heads, but the ball heads would simply give away and tilt all the way down because the ball heads I have don't have that holding power. I've tried it with this video head, the 701 HD. It works well, but it is again very wobbly. So if you're going to mount this on a head, you would really want to use a heavy duty head like the Manfrotto 504 HD. So with this, I find that using a quick release plate on itself is the most stable solution. Now when the camera, this is a 650D with a 24-105L lens, when the camera goes to the extreme edges, it starts to get very unstable. Same goes with this bit. So I would recommend having at least one tripod and one monopod. You can have a tripod on one side and the monopod on the other side, but for me, I just like to have a tripod in the middle and one monopod on the crank handle end. Now, of course, this is not the most stable mounting option because at edges, the entire slider would still have a bit of sway. It just has a bit of play to it. So if you want the most stable mounting option to this, I would recommend two tripods, one tripod on one end and the other tripod on the other end. So given that this is a slider, it does its job perfectly well. It is a very good slider. Its motion is very smooth on the Pocket Dolly V2, the drive system and the crank handle. Everything just feels really good. Now, you can even use the crank handle to make more fine-tuned moves with this. With the crank handle, you can really have a lot more control over especially the slow sliding moves. So with the crank handle, it's a really great thing to have. So if you're just getting the basic version without the crank handle, you are missing out on a lot and a lot. This is a bearing slider, not a IGUS slider, so it will be perfectly smooth. It has ball bearings down here. It has 4 sets of bearings and then 4 more sets up here. I don't really know how to explain that. You really have to look at it to see for yourself. Just it has a rather complex card design. And what else? Okay, right here on the slider itself, it basically has like every single screw thread you can imagine in existence. So you won't really have to worry about mounting compatibility with this. It has the bigger screw threads. It has the 1/8 inch thread, the 1/4 inch thread. I think it's a 1/8 inch thread. Anyway, it has a lot of screw threads, so you won't really have to worry about mounting this thing. It has threads on all the sides. It is fully compatible with additional accessories like Kessler's Outrigger Feet, I think. Yes, I think you can mount in the Outrigger Feet. It comes with 4 rubber studs down here for you to place it on the ground. 4 rubber studs. It doesn't come with the Outrigger Feet. You will have to buy that separately. I'm not sure if it's compatible with the Outrigger Feet. What I do know is that this is fully compatible even with the Kessler parallax system, which allows you for radio pan shots like this, except automated. So you can just push the slider down and then it will pan the camera on itself. Again, like I said, this is a very smooth slider, very versatile. The length is also very great. I think 1 meter is just enough, slightly more than enough for most users. So the 1 meter is good, but of course, if you are going to use it on the fly a lot, because this is a rather heavy slider. So being a very heavy slider, if you want portability, you would might want to consider the Traveler or Mini versions if you're doing a lot of traveling. There is also a Stealth Carbon version, which is sort of like the Pocket Dolly mated with the Cine slider, and then you have the Stealth. It's like a combination of the Pocket Dolly and the Cine slider in carbon fiber. There is also a non-carbon fiber version. However, I don't really have any experience with that. I just have this. So apart from all that, there is really not much to say about this slider. This is a slider. It does what camera sliders do very well. It is very rugged. It has a very stable platform. You can mount even huge cinema cameras on this. No problem. It has a large weight capacity. Now, there are 2 quirks though about this Pocket Dolly. One thing is that the cart does not have a braking or locking mechanism of any sort, so you cannot actually lock the cart in place. This could be a particular issue when you are moving the Pocket Dolly around, because mainly the cart would just go all over the place because you simply cannot lock it in place. There's no braking system. You cannot brake it, you cannot lock it in one place, so that's one thing to worry about. Apart from that, over here, the crank handle would always collide with your camera or your video head at this end. So there's still about 2 centimeters of space left on the slider. However, the crank handle would just simply collide with your camera. So not sure if that's a design flaw. They could have made the crank handle sort of outwards a bit. They could extend it a bit and put the crank handle out there so it doesn't really bump into your camera. But that is pretty much it. This is their entry-level slider, so it does not have drag control. If you want drag control, you're gonna have to get the Philip Bloom edition or the Stealth, or the Cine slider for that matter. But anyway, this is a really great slider. So there we have it, the review of the Kessler Pocket Dolly version 2. So to top off this review, I will leave you with a reel of my sample shots done using this slider. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.